Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by Genesis House and the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction and recovery. Join your hosts,
the Podfather, Jersey Ed,
Miss Meg,
as they break the silence and speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Friends in Recovery Podcast.com. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles, and I'm here with
Jersey Ed, guys. I won't say it. I promise I won't say it.
You're
Say what? What are you going to say?
I won't say Quarantineville.
Oh, God.
It's really a town in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Well, thank goodness I'm here in Sweet Studio with the man, the myth, the legend, Sweets himself.
In the background.
Yep.
What's up, Sweets?
Working and lurking.
So I got to ask everybody a question. I'm going to send this out to the audience, and they can answer me at 617-379-1163 or email us at help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. So folks out there, the Podfather and Sweets have been telling me I can't come up there because of the coronavirus. I need to stay away till almost December. That's what they've been telling me. I want to know if that's true or not.
So far it's working.
Back out play, guys. Back out play here. All right.
So far it's working.
Yep. And that, just so we're clear, that's December 2021.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check it on my calendar.
I
miss you guys too. It does suck being away, and the camaraderie of our recovery in one room works so well. And there's a reason why we do this, and we do it well. So I just want to thank you guys for being here for us all the time. So
yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So I guess I came up with a topic today. We don't have no guests, and it's always nice not to have a guest and just come up with a topic and inform our listeners like what we might have done in the past, or our experience, strengths, and hopes too. So I came up with a topic. What do I do after a 30-day stay at Genesis House or in a treatment program? And I think that's a pretty valid question, because especially now, Podfather and Sweets, with all this craziness going on, like now you would go to an AA meeting, find a sponsor, sit with a sponsor, work the steps. You can't fucking do that right now. You know, I mean, I know it's getting less and less, but still, I mean, so there's a different world here going on a little bit. But even the traditional way, what do I do after I get out of treatment? I mean, you're in treatment 30 days. You're in a cocoon, right, guys?
Yeah.
Basically, right? I mean, you're sitting in a safe, healthy. I remember not wanting to get out of treatment because there were bills out there. There was an ex-wife that I had to deal with. There was a mom pissed off. There was a grandmother that didn't want me living with her, but she said I got 2 weeks to live with her, and then I'm out the door. There was a lot of shit going on in my life. I mean, did you guys feel like that after getting out of treatment?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, the whole idea of treatment is I use the lobster analogy, right? Like we talked about this in the past, that, how do lobsters grow? And Rabbi Twersky has a video and he talks about, this hard-shelled lobster. And when lobsters are getting ready to molt or cast off their shell, they feel the stress and pressure of the soft, squishy part of their body pushing up against the hard shell. That means the shell is too small. So they go crawl under a rock, they cast off the shell, and they stay under that rock in this safe place away from predators until they develop a new shell. And then when the shell is hard enough, then they go swim around. So they're safe again. And that's the idea of treatment in my mind, is that I picture us out here battling stress and anxiety and pain and all this other stuff. And, we're using drugs to fill in the gaps of the shell that doesn't quite fit anymore and numb the stress and pressure. But once we feel it and decide to go get treatment, we go into a program, and that program is supposed to act as the rock, right? And we go crawl under that rock, and we cast off our shell. We get vulnerable. We get open. We get, willing to talk to a therapist, a psychiatrist. We make psychological and emotional adjustments while we're in there. Yeah. And the idea is to stay long enough to develop an appropriate shell to come out and deal with the world that you have to deal with.
Yep.
And you can't do all that in 30 days. And B, most of us come out with a soft, squishy shell that's not quite prepared for what life has to throw at us. So the question is, what do we do afterward? And the question for me, when you ask me, did I ever experience that?
Mhm.
Yes. Every single time I left detox, every single time I left treatment, even if I was there for months, I never left with a fully developed shell that was appropriate for my size, my age, and my life problems. I still left with work to be done.
Yep. Yeah.
I love the analogy on the lobster shell. And I just think of I was harkening back to when I got out of treatment. I went in October 17th, 1986, Sunapee, New Hampshire, Seminole Point. The Red Sox and the Mets were in the World Series. We know how that
Wow.
ended up if you're a Boston
Yeah.
fan. And
Fuck no.
Buckner. But when I got out, I hit the ground running. I really didn't know what to do, and I had tons of bills, and I had a lot of damage on the outside. I had a new son. I wasn't married. I had a lot going on, but the recovery was what I wanted, and I had a taste of it. Of being sober, I had my brain back a little bit, and I did what I was told to do. I went to meetings. I didn't go right back to work because they didn't want me back to work. They wouldn't let me come back for 17 more months,
Wow.
and it wasn't easy. But I just found my cocoon. My new cocoon was the halls of AA, believe it or not, and the people in AA, going to meetings, going on commitments, just doing that and reading literature. But the meetings were the big part of it. I went to sometimes 3 meetings a day, and I know that doesn't sound like it's logical or whatever, but that's what I did. And I got to say, maybe that's why I'm sober today, because I just did what I was told. Nowadays, with what's going on, it's hard to get to even one meeting. You can't, but so it's a good topic.
Yeah. Don't you think, guys, we all have some time here. And don't you think even 10 years, 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago, it was a little different and a little bit easier to stay sober because of all the choices we have now? We have Buddhist recovery, we have smart recovery, we have marijuana, maintenance, we have Suboxone. Way back when, I know when I got sober all those years ago, we didn't have many choices. You went to AA. There was some IOP somewhere, but I did outpatient. But there's so many choices now and so many confusing things you get out of this. Like Sweet said, you're in your soft shell and you're trying to get back in the world. And now everybody's saying you should go to IOP, you should go to PHP, you should do this, you should go to Smart Recovery. Is it? Don't you think it's a little confusing? Also, this new world.
It's very confusing, Eddie, and I agree with you. But nowadays too, now we have we have naltrexone, we have what's the other one? Vivitrol.
Vivitrol.
Right. We have those medications for people addicted to opioids, and which is a very tough addiction to kick. I mean, alcohol is tough. There's no doubt about it. Any addiction's tough, but I find the opioid addiction it's from what I've seen from clients, it's just harder because it's constant. It's constant, stress, anxiety, panic. But there is medication out there. I think I tell my clients, find a good med provider, get something that's going to help you to stay sober. And I mean, foolproof. In other words, no guesswork here. That's with the opioids. With the alcohol, I'm a big believer. And there's medication for that too. I mean,
absolutely.
You got to look at all different avenues, how it suits you. The main thing is to get through a 24-day cycle without picking up a substance that's mind altering, that's going to get you back to where you were before you went away.
Absolutely. And Mike, Spotify, you're talking about medications. That's another thing. If there's a dual diagnosis, a lot more people are coming out with dual diagnosis, because we didn't know much about PTSD and dual diagnosis all those years when you and I were, especially you, when you were coming through things. We knew depression, we knew some other things, but we didn't know how closely it was interlaced with substance abuse. And Sweets, I'm sure you see a huge amount of that in your practice when you see family members, because family members have just as many problems as that addict does, because that addict is in that whole crazy family system. And medications, what's your thoughts on that, guys, as far as medications when you get out?
Well, how do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, between family, the ups and downs of each family member playing a different role in the addict's addiction. Bipolar. We might have some bipolar
Yeah,
people
I mean,
in the family. You know what I mean?
Me personally, I don't really have an opinion on medication one way or the other. It's needed or
Okay.
it's not. But the family system gets sick together, and in order for them to heal, they need to get well together, right? I mean, the problem I think is that families and just individuals, people, not even families, just people in general have this misconception, like we just discussed earlier, that if the loved one that's freaking out by using substances or having mental health issues just goes away and fixes their proverbial shit and comes back, everything will be fine. We won't have to change. We won't have to put in the work. They're the ones with the problem. They need to stop using. They need to behave better. They need to act right. And I feel like that's probably one of the biggest problems nationwide with our treatment industry, is that there's some confusion about what it actually takes to address addiction and mental health. Is that if you go away, you should come back fixed. And then when you come back, we should be fine because you are the problem. And that sucks. as an individual that's struggling with addiction or has struggled with addiction myself, that sucks, because basically all the onus is on you to fix something that you have not been able to fix up to that point. And if you don't fix it, not only do you suffer, but so does everybody that you love. The new way of addressing it is that we all work on it together, and that we understand it better, and we learn how to support each other better. And like your original question, what do we do when you come home from treatment? Now families can play more of a pivotal role in it, if they understand it's going to take 9 months to 2 years to really make the changes necessary for this to be a sustainable recovery process, and that as family members you can get help and play a role in it too.
In early recovery, I remember going to tons of meetings with my sponsor, and I started hearing the acronym Al-Anon, and I started hearing about Al-Anon and what Al-Anon was. And I actually used to go to a Tuesday night meeting in North Chelmsford Center at a Methodist church, and upstairs they had the AA meeting, and downstairs they had the Al-Anon meeting, and it was the same time. So I would see people that went to my meetings during the week at that Tuesday night meeting, and then their loved ones, their wives, husbands, would be downstairs. And I thought maybe that was something my loved one needed or might want to attend, and she said no. My wife didn't want anything to do with it. She's never had a problem, but she was very supportive of me. I mean, she just wasn't interested in that. But I think that the very basics, it looks old school now. It kind of looks, and it's antiquated. It's not new and shiny, but Al-Anon is available. I think what Mike just said, for me as a family therapist, I always get the family involved, because if you come out and you have a drinking problem and you went away and everyone in your family drinks, you can't go over there on 4th of July and watch them all pound down beers and get through the day thinking you're going to be okay, because you're walking a tightrope. You agree with me, guys?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's probably another issue is, and we can talk about this after the break, because I don't want to open this can right before we're supposed to take a break. But one of the things that recovery breaks down to two paths, right? Avoidance and acceptance, in my opinion. And maybe the first step is avoidance. You have to avoid certain things that would be bad. Like, if you're a heroin addict, you don't come out of treatment and go to like a shooting gallery and hang out with your friends and watch them shoot dope. That's common sense avoidance, right? Same with if you're an alcoholic coming out of treatment, probably not a good idea for you to go hang out at the bar immediately afterward. But the ultimate goal of recovery is acceptance, accepting that you live in a world where other people can do these things that you can't, and be okay with it, not live a life of resentment and anger that other people can and you can't. Is to come to terms with the fact that you live in that world. And when you can find acceptance as a part of whatever personal recovery process you're involved in, now mind you can't medically get that acceptance, but whatever personal recovery process you're involved in, then you can more easily navigate a world or a family system where not everyone's going to change just because you're in recovery.
Sure.
Like, I'm sober. I don't go to cookouts and like, oh no, this is sober cookout because Mike's coming. Fuck that. No. They're like, hey, this is all the booze. And then, oh, Mike, by the way, over near the kiddie station, there's some sodas and waters if you want. And I'm like, yeah, all right, cool. Appreciate that. You know what I mean? But that's not the world changing around me because I'm an addict and alcoholic. That's me learning to accept that and getting comfortable going to places I can go and staying away from places I can't.
and I'm a firm believer, if you in very basic talk in sponsor speak, keep the focus on yourself. And, I couldn't worry about what everyone else was doing. I just had to worry about me. So I knew if I went to a cookout, I'm an adult. I'm 32 years old when I got out of treatment. I knew there was going to be, libations. There's going to be booze. There's going to be whatever's going on. And I just knew that if I'm going, I'm going to eat, but I'm not going to drink. So, hey, we're going to take a break. Friends of Recovery podcast, the Podfather, Sweets, and, of course, down there in Quarantineville is Jersey Ed. We'll be right back.
All right.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery. Welcome back to the Friends in Recovery Addiction Recovery podcast. We want to thank our sponsor, Genesis House, for supporting this show, along with individuals in recovery and the people that love them. Friends in Recovery Community of Support holds events across the country sponsored by Genesis House in Palm Springs, Florida, Marlton, New Jersey, Newtown, Connecticut, and Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. The Friends in Recovery Addiction Recovery podcast is powered by your likes, follows, subscribes, and shares. And please be sure to do us a favor and leave us a 5-star review. And now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Friends in Recovery Podcast.com. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles, and I'm here with
Jersey Ed.
Jersey Ed. Look at him over there.
Hey, guys. Where am I at, Podfather?
You're in Sweet Studio with the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Sweets.
That's right. We brought you. See, now we're going to say you're in Sweet Studio live via Zoom.
Via Zoom, right?
Oh, is that what it is? Damn. I like Quarantine Bill.
I've been writing that in my treatment plans. I say 3 supplemental meetings, AA, NA, then I put currently Zoom because that's what we got.
That's pretty funny. Yeah.
That's right. We use what we have.
Exactly. That's it. That's it. So we can talk about those new tools too.
Absolutely. We were talking before the break, and I think we got some good stuff out there, some good banter, as they say. So, who's picking it up?
Me. Sorry, Jersey Ed podcast pick of the week.
Oh, I forgot about that. I love those. Go
ahead.
What do you want? You want some comedy horns? You want a drum roll? What do you want? Pick one.
I want comedy horns. That's what I like.
I like the sound of that.
Ooh, yeah,
it is.
Give me
that.
Like
that.
That's the earpiece.
I like it. Let's hear it again. Hear it again. Oh, that's good.
All right. Yeah.
All right. So Jersey Ed's podcast pick of the week is happy. It's called Recovery Happy Hour. Host Trisha. Hearing stories we relate to is what gets us and keeps us sober. Trish likes sharing those stories by interviewing sober people from all over the globe to show you that life won't end when you quit drinking. If you still wrestle with the idea of quitting or afraid of what label you'll have, you're not alone. You don't even have to identify as an alcoholic to question your relationship with alcohol. She hopes you'll hear these stories and realize that you can choose to live whatever kind of life you want. And if alcohol is making your life worse, it's okay to decide to stop. Tune in every Tuesday to hear how life doesn't end after you break up with alcohol. There's life beyond the bottle and life worth living. You can find Recovery Happy Hour podcast anywhere you find your podcast from. You get your podcast from, and on their website, recoveryhappyhour.com. This is a really good one. I know I say that all the time, but this is a really good one. I tune into Trisha's podcast every once in a while, and she's very, very good, very good interviews. So
nice.
Now my reading isn't the greatest, but her show is.
Oh, come on. Your reading sucks.
Don't give yourself that much credit.
I'm just kidding. No, Ed, you know what? You always say, oh, I don't know because I'm not a cop, all right? My reading sucks. Ed, you're the glue that keeps this going, you know?
Right.
Oh, the goo.
The
The
goo.
group that
Oh,
keeps
the
us groups
goo.
together. Amen.
You are the goo.
Real quick, I want to give out our phone number and everything that oh, sorry guys. We want to give out our phone number 617-379-1163 just in case you missed something, or if you want to send us an email at help@friendsofrecoverypodcast.com. Give us a call. And back to the show. Before we took a break, Sweets, you were touching on some good things, and Podfather, so were you, as far as changing people, places, and things. Basically, that's what we were talking about in a nutshell. And like Sweets, you said, I can't go to a bar or a picnic, knowing that there's gonna be alcohol there, or telling them to stop drinking and not being, life doesn't stop because Sweets or the Podfather or Jersey Ed stop drinking. It keeps going, and people have to do what they do. There's going to be booze.
It's healthy to have a little bit of avoidance in the beginning and early recovery to avoid certain areas, but it's unhealthy to count on that avoidance and call it recovery.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the point I'm getting at. Is that, like, to just hide from the world that exists around you, and try not to bump into any proverbial sharp corners, or, oh my God, that guy's drinking, I got to get out of here. If that's what your recovery looks like after a year or two, you might want to reconsider the recovery process. It might not be giving you a shell. You might just be walking around all soft shelled, and that's a scary place to live. That's a world full of relapse.
Sure.
Yeah.
When I got sober, I was still working, the streets. I was in a cruiser, and I was with a great group of men and women. I just love working with these people. I got to tell you, some of the best times in my life where I worked, because that's what you do. And I worked a lot of overtime to keep the family going, pay college tuition, pay bills, whatever. But there was a Christmas party every year, and the Christmas parties were usually wonderful.
Christmas parties,
you're great. The only thing is, I didn't go. I didn't go for the first 10 years in sobriety, because I knew that what was going to be going on there, and it was nothing crazy, but a great time. And I just didn't feel like I was comfortable. But as time went on and my kids would get a little bit older, and I started going back, and I would stay I'd set a time limit. I'd stay for 2 hours, and I'd get in the raffle, and I'd walk around, I'd drink a Coke, and I'd talk to people. I'd eat as much food as I could. And I had a great time. I'd be in and out. People wouldn't even realize. There'd be card games. I'd jump in a game. But I just knew that I couldn't, partake. And in the beginning, I questioned myself. I'm like, if I was ever going to drink, this would be the time, because there was a lot going on around Christmas. But when I went down to Philly, Ed, when Stacy's ex-husband's wife, Katie, was very, very ill, we went down for that fundraiser. It reminded me so much of my younger days as a cop. I met all these Philly cops. They were awesome people. I felt like I was home. And that was one of those times where there was plenty of food, lots of laughs, lots of characters. I just loved it. And it reminded me, whether I'm in Philadelphia or whether I'm in Lowell, Massachusetts, or Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, when I'm with a bunch of cops, I'm at ease. I'm comfortable. I like the culture. I like the middle class, blue collar humor. I like the kids. Some of the parents came, they had their kids with them, and I just loved it. And I got to tell you, that was a very, very special time. We drove down there, Jeff and I, we had a great time. That was great. Talking about that culture, not the police culture, but the culture of being in recovery. I remember my sponsor telling me early recovery, maybe 6 months in recovery. First of all, don't go to a party like that. Don't go to anything like that alone. Have support, number one. If you can't get support, bring phone numbers. And number two, bring your own car, because if it gets hectic or crazy, you can walk out. Nobody's going to say, well, why did Ed leave? Well, there's 30 other people there, and I'll never know you're gone. You know what I mean? But the focus is always on us. Oh my God, I'm going to, don't stand next to the beer, hang out with the people who, whatever the case may be, you know what I mean? So there's some really good advice out there. I think the most important part, if you guys agree with me, is get a sponsor so they can tell you what kind of guide you through all this. I mean, a sponsor, how important is a sponsor, guys, in any part of recovery? To me, my sponsor, and I still have the same sponsor 34 years, the same sponsor, Jim Walmsley, greatest guy I know. I love him. Every time I see him, I hug him, and I just love him. He really taught me about sobriety, and it was, he was a tough old dude. I remember one night, it was our second meeting of the day, and I was out front chatting. Back then, I smoked cigarettes, and he pulled up, and we had gone to a meeting that morning, and of course, I'm outside, and he walked up, and he said hi to everybody because he was well known, and he looked at me, and he said, "Hey, the meeting's inside." And I flipped the butt, and I said, "Yep." And I went back in, and I was pissed. I'm like, "Who the fuck does he think he is? This is my second meeting, But then I thought, as I was sitting there, I heard some speakers, and he always said, "You're always going to hear something in an AA meeting. I don't care if you go to 10 a day. You're going to take something out of each one of those meetings." And that particular night, somebody was talking about anxiety, which I had tons of it. And he looked at me and winked. And when we got out, he didn't have to say a word. I knew what he was going to say.
Mhm.
And he said, "If you weren't in there, you wouldn't have heard that. Wasn't that guy a great speaker?" I said, "Yeah." "Remind me of you." I said, "Yes."
Yeah.
So I used to call him up and say, "Jim, I'm paralyzed. I'm with fear." "All right, well, we're going to call fucking McDonough the Undertaker. We're going to get you over there and get you a fucking box, all right? What the fuck? Jesus Christ, this anxiety, you got to get rid of it." And that's how he handled it. I'd be like, "All right, thanks, Jim," and I hang up. Say, "What a fucking asshole."
Yeah.
But
that's a great advice that you brought up, Mike. We don't build our program, we don't build our AA or our recovery program on one meeting. You don't go to one meeting and you get every piece of advice that you need in the whole wide world. You know what I mean? You have to take a little bit from each meeting, just like books. I read books all over the place, but every part of each book isn't exactly what I'm looking for, but there's a little piece in each book that I can put together, and same thing in my recovery program, a little piece of each meeting, a little piece of you guys, a little piece of my sponsor that I can put together and build my hard shell, as Sweets was saying earlier. I think the idea is, and I love that analogy, Sweets. That's such a great analogy. Eventually to build our hard shell up to get out in the world. And now, I'm deep into it. I don't avoid alcohol or parties or whatever. I know what I have to do. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I tell everybody, that's me. No, I don't do this to everybody. I tell everybody, I'm in recovery. If somebody says, "You want to drink?" Nope. You don't want me drinking. I'm in recovery because I'll fuck this whole party up. I make a joke out of it, but I protect myself that way. That's my fucking hard shell, is let them know, man. What the fuck? Let them know. That's me. Anyways, I let them know that I'm in recovery and I don't need to be around that booze. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, I think also not being judgmental. I went to DC a few years ago with a bunch of young cops. We went down to the Police Memorial Weekend down there, and they dedicate a lot of things to the fallen officers that die over the years. And you see family members getting flags and awards, and it's heartwarming. You see these young kids, it's heartbreaking. It really is. But there's also another side of it too, and I get to see the monuments, the World War II Memorial, the Vietnam Memorial, the Korean Memorial, and Washington's monument, and Lincoln's monument. And walking around DC, one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, and the liquor stores close early down there, 8:00 at night. So all these young guys are going out. I'm going back to the room to watch boxing or whatever's on TV, and I stop at a liquor store and I buy a case of beer and a couple bags of ice, and I bring it back to the room and I throw it in the bathtub, and they all come back 1:00, 2:00 in the morning, and they're like, "Who bought the beer?" And I'm sleeping, and now I'm waking up, and they said, "Miles must have bought the beer." Well, he doesn't even drink, but I knew these guys with like a few beers when they came back. I'm fine with that. I like being the bartender. I like seeing people have a good time. It's not for me to be judging. I never say to anyone, "Hey, you might have a problem." But if people come to me, which they do often, then I say, "All right, let's figure it out."
Yeah, absolutely. And that's true. I think guys, Sweets, what's your thoughts on that before I wrap all this up?
Being in recovery is tough sometimes, but like I said, if you can wrap your head around acceptance, I think that you have a better chance at staying sober, coming out and accepting that the rest of the world is going to do things that you used to be able to do, and that part of your recovery is accepting that you can't. And whatever path you choose to get to that level of acceptance, once you can do that, the world is a much easier place to navigate, and whether, I wouldn't climb Mount Everest without a sponsor. I wouldn't walk into a jungle a guide. I wouldn't walk into a jungle without somebody that knows their way through the jungle. Like, I won't even go into the woods behind my dad's house without my dad there, because he knows his way around the woods. Like, unless you're a fool and you want to try to go in and figure your own way through something you don't really understand, a sponsor, a guide, whatever you want to call them, for whatever recovery process you have, is critical. And so whenever you're coming out of treatment and you don't know what to do, the best thing to do is probably grab someone that does.
Yeah. And sometimes you only get one shot at this, as we know. We've seen people that we love and that are near and dear to us that don't make it, and that's heartbreaking. Sometimes you only get one shot. And if you're new or you want to get help and you listen to this program, I know Ed's going to give out the number. All I'm saying is take an opportunity, go balls to the wall, do it the right way, go get the help. Listen to what people are saying. Try it. Your way's getting you where your best thinking's got you where you're at now. We've been there. Between the three of us, we got over 60 years of sobriety here. We much more. We probably got 70 years. We know what it's about. We've been to hundreds of meetings. We've had the heartaches, the losses, the financial problems. Everything you got, we've had. There's nothing you can tell me, Ed or Sweets, that we haven't been through. But you know what? We're here to help you. We're not getting paid to do this. We're here to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give out the number right now. 617-379-1163, or email us at help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. You're never alone, guys. That's the number right there. You call us. One of us will either get back to you. All our phone numbers are in the show notes. You can always look at the show notes and call us. Please reach out and kind of talk to us. And like the Podfather said, we've experienced this already. Ask us questions. We're not afraid to answer them. We're really not, and anything you tell us, we've either done or heard or we're planning on doing somewhere in the past, and we're not kind of blind to this. Sweets, before we go, I really like how you close this. And I think we should just close it. Acceptance. That's it. You have to accept it, who you are, and move on, whatever that would be. Whatever it is. If you plan on saying, I'm Ed, I'm an alcoholic, or if you choose not to just yet, and you need a little more time to do some more research and see if you don't get arrested and if you don't have a problem, that's up to you, man. But we suggest you come on this side with us, accept it, and move on in life. So, Sweets, thank you very much. That was excellent. Excellent topic that you brought up. So,
and if anybody listening here would like to find out more, you can go on to Friends in Recovery Facebook page, and you can like and share. If you're looking for more ways to listen, you can go on YouTube and you can type in Friends in Recovery, and you can watch us, and you can turn on notifications, subscribe, do all that wonderful stuff. What's that number one more time?
617-379-1163 is our direct number to us. And also,
and they can also send emails, right, to help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com.
Yeah. And let's not forget Genesis House's
absolutely
alumni meetings twice a day, Zoom meetings now, guys.
That's right.
It's as easy as that. Get on a Zoom meeting at 7 p.m. or 12 noon.
Yeah, and if you're looking for a place to get sober, let me just say, I've sent people away, hundreds of people away for treatment. Genesis House is the Cadillac. It is the 5-star recovery place. I'm not talking about amenities. I'm talking about sobriety, the people that work there, the professionals. You could not find a better place. You could not find more educated, knowledgeable people that are willing to give you 100% of their attention, give you the right information. And when they release you, you're going to go someplace. You're going to go home. You're going to have some tools to work with. Is that it? Okay,
That's
fellas.
Yep.
Friends in Recovery podcast. And what a great show. Thank you.
Yeah. Stay sober, everybody.
That concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Thanks to Genesis House for supporting those on the path to recovery and for keeping this valuable resource free for our Friends in Recovery community. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates. If you're interested in becoming a guest on the show, email us at help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. If you can't get enough of Mike the Podfather and Jersey Ed, you can catch them on Answering the Call, the First Responder podcast, available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube.